Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Radhakrishnan. I head communications for Wipro Enterprises. I have a beautiful panel, a fantastic panel. Let me introduce them first in alphabetical order. I have Rubeena Singh. She is CEO iProspect. There is Ruchika Batra, Vice President Marketing and Communications, Ericsson India. Sapna Desai head of marketing. She's head of marketing online business ManipalCigna Health Insurance, and Uma Rao is head of HR medium and heavy commercial vehicles, and she's also member of board of directors of Gulf Ashley Motors. And we are all here today discussing Supermoms balancing leadership and motherhood. Welcome, fantastic women. It's great to see you all and interact with you guys on this forum. I just want to, start off first with you, Uma, on this whole concept of supermom. I mean, is it something that exists or is it a myth?
Hi, Radha. Hi, everybody. And thank you very much, BloombergQuint, for this opportunity to be sharing some views on a very important aspect for all women, most women rather, and for organizations. So the very good question, Radha, about being a super mom. You know, you can almost visualize somebody who's got a cape around and flying around and doing everything in the house. And I wish that was true. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, definitely we are like the jugglery queens. We're trying to juggle so many balls all the time, and multiple roles, multifaceted kind of responsibilities that we have, both at home and at work. So that almost makes people believe that you must be a super mom or a superwoman. Mm-hmm. And I keep thinking about this topic, and I think that, this is a myth in my mind, because the moment a woman starts believing that she can do everything under the sun and in this world and make everybody happy, that puts an enormous amount of pressure on the individual. And so, yes, we are very good at multitasking. We do so many things together at one time, juggling. But I would not like to believe that I'm a super mom or any woman is a super mom, because super moms are surreal. They're not real. It is like the genie, Aladdin's lamp, and the genie which comes and does everything. We can't be doing that. But yet, I have to tell you, it's a bow to the spirit of women that they do so much in a given day, every single day in the year. So that's my view, Radha, on this point.
So, Rubeena, I mean, just taking off from what Uma was talking about, we are jugglers, we are multitaskers, and I guess we have been able to do things successfully time after time, and that's how the superstardom comes into the picture, right? So, what's your view? I mean, are we super moms?
I think every mom is a super mom, and I'll tell you why I believe that. I think God has given us the superpower to be able to bear children, right? So that's a superpower. And every mother, no matter what the circumstances are, in her heart, I believe, will do the best for her children, her child or her children. And that is why they're super women. No matter what the pressures are, no matter what the situation is, the mother always has the best interest of the child first, even before her own needs. And that's why I think all mothers are super mothers, and they're all super moms. The only thing that I don't agree with, which Uma actually said correctly, is this whole perception that we've made of how mothers should do so much. They should be able to juggle a professional life. They should be looking after, their children. Or in these days, when we look at social media, a perfect picture of what a family should be, what a mother should be, what a child should be. I think that is very, very incorrect. And we have to be conscious about that. As long as we mothers feel that we are doing the best in our given circumstances for our children, I think each one of us is a super mom.
Yeah, it's a kind of typecasting, isn't it, Sapna? Because, taking off from what Rubeena was talking about, somewhere we are getting slotted, isn't it?
Yeah, so true, Radha. And, what Rubeena also mentioned, I think this being a super mom is a big trap, and every woman is a super mom. And trying to be something, and, giving you the title of a super mom, I think it's a trap. because the thing is that the children don't want you to be a super mom. They just want you to be a happy mom, a supportive mom, a loving mom, which every mother is. The children don't want you to be, some kind of a super mom. And, all they really want is that you are there with them, which every mother is. The thing is that you can only give about 100% of yourself, be it to work or, it's one you. And you will make choices at the right time, which work for you, which work for you individually, which work for your family. And that's perfectly okay. Trying to be a super mom, I think, puts a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, which is honestly not needed. And, nobody wants that of you. All you need to really strive is do the best that you can and, do the best that makes you happy. I think that's what I feel, Radha. I think it's a big trap, and really don't want people to fall for this whole notion of, when people meet you, oh, how do you manage this? You juggle this, you do that. You must be a super mom. So all I really say, thanks. It's nice, but I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, true. And Ruchika, I'll just come to you with my next question. I mean, Sapna was talking about all of us have to do our best, and that's what we are basically focused on. But for us to do our best, there has to be an inclusive environment at work also, right? And sometimes we can also contribute in creating that kind of an inclusive environment. What's your take on that?
I totally agree with you, Radha. I think it's very important for organizations to create an inclusive environment and also for us as leaders to actually contribute to creating an inclusive environment for other women in the organization. And when I say inclusive, it basically means giving them an equal opportunity, making them feel included, having a culture which is like an open culture where they can, kind of communicate more openly. And also, not really taking decisions for the women in the workforce, right? I mean, giving them the opportunity, but allowing them to take their own decisions in terms of where they want to really, take their career. And as women leaders, I think it's also our responsibility a little bit to kind of guide them, coach them, and allow them to really discover their own full potential. So to me, that's what the inclusive environment would be. And I think as women leaders, we have a role to play there.
Yeah, so leaders as coaches, that's a very important topic that you touched upon. I'll come to that, but before that, I just want to get Rubeena's views. I mean, how do you think, Rubeena, you have been able to create an inclusive environment, for women around you?
So, Radha, what Ruchika said is absolutely true. But, I think the problem is heightened in today's world, right? In the past 13, 14 months, all of us are working at home. And like Sapna was saying earlier, there was a time where we would make our choice. We would get to office, give our best at office. And if we chose to be with our children, we would give our 100% to our children, right? At that point in time. Today, that's not an option. The lines have blurred, right? We are working from home. And I think to be inclusive to women and more so to women, I think, because the fact of the matter is that women are always working double shift. They were working double shift. Now it's even harder because all of us, a lot of us had support systems. Today, they are not available, whether it was school, sending our children to school or helping them now online, or whether it's household help, etc. All that is really gone. And whether we like it or not, the fact of the matter is a lot of these home, chores come to women, they have to look and pay attention to those areas as well. I think to be inclusive in current times is to be able to understand that women working from home will have interruptions. It's not going to be an 100%, office environment where you can focus 100%. There may be interruptions when you are in an important client meeting, you're in an internal management meeting, your child may just walk in and interrupt. And I think as organizations, you have to accept it and not make women feel pressured to have a very office-like setting. That is one. The second thing is, we were talking about this earlier, that during this work from home, all of us are working longer. And some things like simple things which we would take in office would be like a lunch break, right? A 30-minute, 40-minute to just like have lunch. Today, it's even harder. I need longer time because I got to cook for my family. I got to make sure my daughter who's young, I make sure she finishes her food, and so many other things. Are we conscious of that? Are we allowing women to take time, not scheduling meetings in those hours? There are so many of these little things, right, that the organization today has to do much more to include women, because the fact of the matter is, and I was reading an article that at least half the women leaders are thinking of downgrading their careers, and that could be a huge threat to women leadership in the future.
Yeah, that's true. So, Uma, what Rubeena was talking about, and I think we've also been seeing a lot of, research reports and things like that, where the pandemic has hit women very hard, right? So, how, from the time you started your career, Uma, how have we, developed this culture and an environment of, inclusivity for women?
Yeah, so I date back in time as far as starting off my career is concerned. And in those days, I felt that there was a little more tolerance than what we have today. I mean, surprisingly, people were very regardful of having women around, and there was a lot of space given. But the fact of the matter is there were very few women. Yeah. So the fact is that they wouldn't understand what it means to have women workforce. And have certain privileges or certain benefits or certain policies which helped women to come in and thrive in organizations. So the few that were there, they were treated well, no doubt about it. But it wasn't a place which attracted a lot of people in because of various reasons. And in those days, therefore, the most important thing was for the woman to understand how to work with a lot of men around, and then adjust herself and, sort of keep moving ahead with them. And if there were some men who had a wife who was working, they were a little more understanding in the way things were. And in general, one had to adjust a lot to the workplace. There wasn't anything special happening for women. When I look back on time from then to now, the maternity leave has increased over time. The other privileges which organizations now extend to women, I think, is much better than it used to be at that point in time. But I also see in the current times that there are a lot of judgments also being passed as far as women are concerned. So I see that there is, especially in an organization like, in a sector like mine, automobile, it's a heavily male-dominated sector. Yeah. So it becomes extremely important for people to understand that you need to have a balance. I mean, it couldn't be like a 50-50, perhaps, but it's got to be much better than a single-digit representation that we have. And only then, certain policies and processes become more relevant. So today, organizations like these in the heavy engineering space, automobile, and much of these areas have to do a lot of heavy lifting to move women into positions of importance. In fact, even the representation of women. So we opened our entry level recruitment and had 30%. But that's really a very small part of the whole. So the 30% of 100 looks big, it's 30. But when I look at the entire workforce, it's still in a single digit. So it's a lot that has changed, which is great. But in certain sectors, I think a lot more still needs to change. And don't forget that in my sector, we also have blue collar folks.
Yeah.
We have a lot of women there. Not everybody has the privilege to work from home. And therefore, the first thing that happens is when you look at that workforce, there's such a reluctance to have women there. Yeah. And today, I'm really happy to tell you that we are working on creating an entire production line of women. Mm-hmm. This is going to be tough. It's not going to be easy because you need more washrooms around the place that they'll be working. Basic things, right? Let's not forget it. More washrooms, areas for change, locker rooms, transportation for them to come and go if they come in the shifts. These are all realities of life. And they're not as privileged as we are to be sitting in an air-conditioned office when we were working in the office, or now sitting at home and discharging our duties. So I think inclusivity, in a sense, comes by looking at all aspects of it, not just in the office environment. So when you trace it in time, I think things are getting better. Today, polytechnics, ITIs have more women coming in. We're pushing a lot. We are representing ourselves in various boards. we try to push women representation a lot and intake of female students. And that's the first point. When your supply point is good, that's when you'll be able to actually hire them and get them into your system. And after that, the big heavy lifting of moving them into leadership positions. So certainly, if I look at my own journey and to sum up the question, it started with some support at home, which was very useful when my child was born and all of that. And over a period in time, since I was committed to my career, I had to take a few decisions which helped me to grow in my career. But I had to remember that at all steps, I had to take some help, either from a domestic support or from parents or in-laws or brothers and sisters, because it's very difficult otherwise to manage and feel completely into the job. So one of the things I would like to tell a lot of women here is, we all suffer with guilt. As a parent, we suffer with guilt because we don't spend time with them. And back in those days, and even till recently, we didn't have this work from home. We still don't have a policy of work from home. We didn't have, rather, and now we have it because of the pandemic. So I think the biggest issue that a lot of people face is guilt. And the day we feel that we can suspend guilt, I think we'll be able to work holistically with the whole brain into the organization and the whole body into the organization. So from there to now, better policies, better inclusivity, I would say, better understanding of having more dual couples. All these things are actually helping the cause of having more women. But as I said, certain sectors are still very underrepresented. We need to do something.
Absolutely. And, that sort of brings me to two other questions, which I'm sort of, clubbing and asking Sapna, because 2 points that you pointed out, Uma, were very critical. One is mentoring women, and as they go through their personal journey of, marriage, family, and all that stuff, and also, balancing as they go along. So, Sapna, I just want to get your thoughts on, where does one start when it comes to mentoring women and particularly young mothers?
Right. I think, yeah, really a very, important topic. And I want to just give a very honest answer. See, the thing is, the path is not really, it has roadblocks, and, you have to figure out how to navigate those roadblocks. So, in fact, in our organizations need to kind of help with that, getting women back to work, supporting them as they kind of get into this journey. So I've, quite often, in my team and people around me encountered some, situations where a person is kind of either putting off marriage, putting off parenthood, because they, you want to kind of give your time to the career. Yeah. And, when you're going to be ready for it, I'm not yet ready, and, and situations like this. But the thing is, you're never going to feel ready. I mean, there is never going to be a time when you feel you want to be ready for a situation, especially at that age. So I think, people with experience in working, being a working mother and, a working mother, so we have a program where we call a maternity buddy. So, they're paired with a young mother, somebody who's been kind of doing it for a while. And it's really about sharing your experience and what you went through. When did you lean in, in something, and when did you lean back? Because I think it's really about shifting gears, and the key thing is not to stop. And having said that, I actually took a break. So, but my advice to people would be that, you should, keep going on, take a little bit of a breather when you feel you can't do it, lean in when you think you can. Because I think both, I wouldn't want to compromise one for the other. And I think most women now don't want to do that. So I think it's about creating that self-confidence, creating methods of, asking the right support, and basically overcoming this fear and apprehension that can I really do this? I think that's the key, because, I think most of us would have faced it, and, you would have figured out your own mechanism of saying, yes, I can. I just heard, Uma also talk about it. I think that's the key. The fact that, it's about your internal belief that, yes, I can. I mean, let me figure out how to. And I'm sure the solutions will arrive the moment you say, yes, I can. I think that's the mentorship, that you want to be able to give to the young mothers out there. You can definitely do this. Right.
Yeah, so that's a lot of encouraging words from you, Sapna. Ruchika, I just want to ask you on the same topic of how do you balance motherhood? How do you strike a balance between work and your personal commitments as one goes through our own journey and the journey of our child or our children?
I think Sapna, kind of brought up a very important point. I think it's all about, having that determination to really, kind of create your own path, to stick around. Sapna and I've worked right through, since my child was about a couple of months old to now. I've been working, so it's a question of seeking help when you want to. Trying to kind of find that balance in terms of being able to manage work and personal life, bring in the necessary support, keep doing your work, but bring in that flexibility if you need it, right? I mean, so for example, in our organization, what we try and do is, let's say, for young mothers, if they need any support, we allow them to work from home for a couple of days in a week if they want to, so that they can kind of manage their young kids. So it's a question of at what stages, what support you need, you ask for it, and as long as you don't compromise on your work and keep delivering and even bettering your work as you go along, I think organizations really appreciate that. And I've kind of been lucky to be in an organization where the work environment was very challenging, but they did have the flexible approach where you could kind of manage work life in a comfortable way. Yeah, that's what I would say that.
Yeah, so talking about balance and talking about sort of creating the ecosystem, I just wanted to bring in this whole aspect of paternity leave, right? I mean, a lot of organizations have started introducing it. I mean, introduced it some time back, and a lot of companies are now following them as well. So, Rubeena, what do you make of this? I mean, does it help in any manner in our responsibilities?
So thanks, Radha. I think paternity leave is a very important aspect of the whole, the whole piece. But before we talk about that, I just want to add into what the other panelists were saying about, mentorship. I think mentorship is definitely important, but let's look at it. Practically, it rests the responsibility with actually the mentee or the woman or the young mother who's coming back, like we talked earlier. But the fact of the matter is, and we all know when we were handed up promotions, most of us, we were not in the room. You need your boss to be able to champion your cause, talk to others about your potential and what you bring to the table. And more often than not, when the decision is being taken, whether the next role is to be given to you or another colleague of yours, you're not present there. So you really need mentors. So I think sponsors. So sponsorship is definitely much, much more key. And I was really lucky, when I had my baby, it was just 6 weeks, and I was actually promoted to a bigger role. My boss actually helped me go down that path. He allowed me to take flexible work in spite of taking on a larger role and continue like that. So I had his sponsorship, and that is what actually helped me succeed in my career. And I give a lot of credit to him to allow me to be able to do that. So I think sponsorship is very, very important. At the same point in time, you're right, paternity leave is extremely important. And I'm so glad that organizations are actually starting to look at it, because it breaks that mindset that we have, that the woman is the primary, caregiver. Of course, it helps the father bond with the child in the early days, etc., and all that is very important. But in a workplace, I think that whole responsibility shifts from just women to also men to be caregivers for young children, as they start growing up. So paternity leave is a very, very positive initiative that organizations are taking, and I hope it continues in a larger space as we go forward.
Yeah, so Uma, in a manufacturing organization, like what you were explaining earlier, how much of policies like paternity leave makes a difference?
Maternity leave extension happened at our end before the law came into force. So why I mentioned this to you is because the mindset of people is slowly changing. So to extend the maternity beyond the law itself was the first step where, we could break the mindset to say that this is really, we don't have to do this and things like that. And therefore, we brought in a lot of policies together. Under the umbrella of being a more inclusive environment. It was a well thought out decision. It was aligned with the leadership team and mentioned that if you want to be relevant in today's context and have some good talent working with us and coming to us, we will need to look at some of these aspects very clearly. And therefore, it helped to extend the maternity leave, introduce the paternity leave, a caregiver leave, and all of that together, to say that these are the slew of things that we're going to do to very consciously move the needle as far as inclusion is concerned. So I think the way it was introduced was good. The other point, I was wanting to speak about, and I will now, is that it's important to have women at the leadership team for driving a lot of these things. And it's not natural for men to think about it, that those men who think really great because they're doing a great service towards inclusivity, and we must appreciate them. And by the way, we do have award for inclusive teams and inclusive leaders, because that's how you kind of push that behavior in a place, which is 93% men and only 7% women. Yeah. So we need to do a lot here. But what is important is success begets success. So when you see a woman at the top, you want to create more women who could be successful like her. And therefore, every organization which wants to be inclusive needs to look at its leadership levels first and introduce some women in that area if they don't have naturally homegrown leaders there. Please get them from wherever you have to, in the right places, for the right reasons and talent, and not because you have to get women. But you have to get women there, because unless the women below look at a successful woman at the top, they will not have a reason to believe in organizations and sectors like ours. So when they have somebody on top, they know they believe. And you must have different varieties of women at the top, not just one. So you could have a single mom at the top. So that's one category. You could have a person who's got a full family. She's also at the top. You could have a person who's never chosen to marry. She could also be at the top. So, you need to have lots of different people at the top who are women, to bring that belief in the people down the line that this is possible, that they all work, and that they're not here to kill time, that they are reasonably serious about their careers and things like that. So I think this is something very important to create the ecosystem. As Sapna was saying, creating the ecosystem is very important. And sensitization. Another thing that we do is a lot of sensitization programs, gender sensitization. Sometimes people say unconscious bias, many times it's conscious bias as well. I think we couch all these things by saying unconscious and things like that. And I think we need to head straight into this topic and say that, yes, many times it's conscious bias. Having said that, are you giving the opportunity for people to discuss very frankly about what it means to work in an inclusive environment? Now, let me give you one example. We did a gender sensitization program for men only, done by men facilitators. And believe me, it was therapeutic for men, because they could ask so many questions about what is the right behavior, which they were hesitating to ask earlier and didn't know about it many times, or rather were victims of habit. And the moment these kind of programs happen, they could actually open themselves out and say, oh, by the way, does this gesture amount to something like a harassment? Does saying something like this amount to not appropriate behavior? I think it was important for us to make them go through those sessions and do it. So ecosystem is what is going to make things work. You can bring 30% entry level. By the time it's 5 years, they would have gone, because your system didn't support them. So I feel, it's really important to have the leaves, policies, everything under the umbrella of inclusivity, and then have a scorecard that gets reviewed. And as I keep saying at various points in time, if there are just two things a CEO must monitor about the health of the organization, and I want to introduce a third. One is, of course, the P&L, the reason why organizations are there. Number two is look at your talent, people, talent. Yeah. And number 3 today is very important is how many women do you have in your leadership pipeline and in leadership positions? If you've reviewed these 3, your organization is going to do great.
Absolutely, and that's a very pertinent point you mentioned, which is about having more leaders who are women, because they become role models and aspirational sort of success stories for others to emulate. So Rubeena, that brings me to the next thing, which is about there are a lot of ways people look at us and measure our success, or say that we are super moms or we're not super moms, etc. But how do you think a woman should go about measuring her own success?
I think the measure of success is what makes you happy, right? At different points, the same woman may want to make different choices, and different women have different things that make them happy.
Absolutely.
I think success is whatever makes you happy, right? For somebody, having a professional career makes them happy. That is success for them. For other mothers, they choose to take a break because they would like to, like Sapna said, that makes them happy. I think that is success also. So there is no stereotype of success, that I believe that exists. Like Uma was saying, I think, the organization should be inclusive, should be supportive, that when, let's say, working women who are new mothers want to come back, should be happy to give them an opportunity to get back, because that today is, a challenge. I think what we need to do as an ecosystem is also drive a little bit mind shift, and allow the woman the choice to choose, rather than, going with stereotypes and choosing for them, which again, I think Sapna in her earlier remarks was talking about that, we typecast women saying that, oh, she's going to be married in some time, or she may be thinking of going the family way right now. And a lot of things, we don't hand them the due credit which they deserve. So I think as long as the ecosystem, we allow women the power to make their own choices, and which means to take breaks, come back when they want, I think we will do a lot for women leadership in the future.
Yeah, so that's true. Sapna, you were one among this panel who took a break when you had your second child, right? So at that point in time, did the entire aspect of what is success, did that change for you? Did that metric change?
Yeah, thanks, Radha. Very interesting question, and honestly, a great discussion with all of you. So I think if I had to talk about success, I think again we stereotype it, right? We say, okay, the position, the level, how much money you're making, what's your team size, where have you reached? Yeah, I mean, obviously, it matters. But I think success is also about, when you walk back home, the kids coming over you, jumping around, seeing you, the smiles around you, the happiness around you, the people that you have impacted, anywhere. I mean, the difference that you have made to somebody's life, the stories that you tell, the experiences that you've had. I think for me, that's also success, because I think ultimately that's what I'm really left with, right? It's the memories of a time spent and this journey lived. So I think absolutely, I think Rubeena also nailed it, that it's, success is very different, the way you see it. And on this question that you kind of asked, Radha, about stepping back, which is what I did, I just want to share a story there, because I think there, and I sometimes think, why did I do that? And I question myself, because you do have a dissonance, because you did step back and you step back in. I think you're surrounded by a lot of people who tell you that, can you really manage, 2 kids, why? And sometimes you maybe don't need to work for the sense of the, the money, or the, why do you need to work? Why are you working? I think that's a big question, right? Why do you, be with the children? I think there's a lot of stereotyping that, you're kind of fed in, will you be able to manage? Why do you need to work? But then I think it's essential that you go deep down and say, I want to work because I want to work, because I will be a better mom if I'm working. I think the moment you nail that I think I'm a better mom because of what I'm doing and what the impact I'm making, I think then the journey is very smooth. I think that's being something, a personal story I can tell, because I think the 2 years of break that I took were perhaps not one of my happiest moments. I was itching to do something beyond, being a mother. And I don't know why people kind of say, okay, because you really can manage. And I think the kids also, grow up along with you, So I think it's perfectly fine. We're in a happy situation. So I think it's a lot of perceptions that you have to have the courage to question and break. And that's my, in my mentorship with young, that's really what, why is it what you think, or is it what somebody else is telling you? The moment you differentiate there,
Yeah.
I think then the answers start coming up.
I'm going to stay with you for one more question, because I think you are most equipped to answer this question. How have you managed, bringing up two children? Did you face additional challenges as a result?
Okay, right. Yeah, I think that's so you know what, Radha, I think my first daughter, she is going to turn 18 this year. So I'm a mom to an 18-year-old. Yeah, but I think she came in pretty early in my life, and comparatively to many people now. And she just literally grew herself up, because I learned with her, and I did not have too much of pressures at that age, and we were in a good situation. And she was around 6 when this whole question of second child started popping up, and I was like, I've just finished, I've just done with it. Do I really need to go back and have a second child? I was quite okay with having just a single child, but I think we went with this decision because of my elder daughter, and she was pretty persistent. So we went ahead with it, and we didn't really overthink it. So I think that was great. And then we took a step back. I mean, I took a step back and I stepped out of the career. And I honestly think I didn't need to do it right now. But I took a year, break for around 2 years, because I think both of them were small. She was 5, and then another child. And the environment around me felt that I should take a break. Yeah, so I took a break, and we were pretty young that time. Like, okay, fine, I've worked for a decade. How is a 2 years break going to make a difference? Yeah, so I wouldn't advise that to people around me at this stage. Yeah, but again, people different situations. So in terms of the second child, I think it's brilliant, because I almost let my first child parent the second child.
Okay.
So it's beautiful, because I actually feel less burdened now, because the two of them are together. The feeling of guilt of leaving a child alone is never there, because they're there together. So Anushka check on Ananya, Ananya check on Anushka. I mean, I have outsourced a bit of the parenting to each of them. So I think it's like it's an easy ride now. Having said that, it is in the beginning it's a little tough, because you're really going through the same journey again, and I will keep going through double journeys at each stage. But there are a lot of positives, and I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything. So
That's a very valid
I feel.
point that you mentioned, which is about how people around you sort of said that it's important for you to take a break. Ruchika, that's what I actually wanted to talk to you about, which is how important is it for us to have an ecosystem and a set of helping hand, and a kind of set of people who understand what we are attempting to do in terms of striking a balance between professional and personal lives, right? I mean, what is your take on that?
I think rather it's very important that you do have a set of helping hands around you, people who understand where you want to go in your journey, and who are there to support you. So, if I think all the women here can tell you with hand on heart that if they've reached somewhere, it's not because they traveled the path alone, right? I mean, everybody had people supporting them, encouraging them, giving them that emotional support, and not only emotional support, but also actually supporting with the kids, right? I mean, like I had my mom, she was there, taking care of my child, and kind of helping me manage my work. I had a lot of travel, And honestly, even till before the COVID, I was traveling a lot, right? So for me, it was very important that my child got that security at home, which his grandparents gave him. And apart from that, I would say, Radha, that when I did come back in the evening, from office, then 100% you're giving your time to the child. Because I think as working parents, we're very conscious that, this is the time we have with the child. So you want to give your 100% to the child once you're back from work, right? So it's about balancing our time with the child, but at the same time, giving an environment to the child where the child feels secure and, loved and cared for at home, but also being for the child at moments that matter. And, because even I have a kid who's now, kind of grown up, and I can say that I've tried to be for him, every time every day, of course, every day of life, but at moments that were very important to him, I was there, because even if the grandparents are there, the relationship or the expectation that the child has from his mother is far more, I would say. So for me, in my career journey, it was very important to, while I kept on prioritizing my work, but I did not want to deprioritize my child. So it was a question of balancing the two. And, it's something that you keep doing all the way through. I mean, even if the kid is grown up now, once a mother, always a mother, you always have to be around for the child, whenever they need you. So that's really the journey. It's about striking the balance. It's about knowing where you want to go and, kind of getting the help when you need it to kind of, travel that journey. That's what I would say, Radha.
Yeah, true. And Rubeena, like what Ruchika was talking about, it's about striking balance, but it's also about not feeling guilty, right? Because there are times when, you compromise at home, or you may have to compromise at work, and that sort of makes you feel a little awkward, a little guilty. So how do you, and will ecosystem at that point in time is something that you can look up to or you can turn to?
So, yeah, definitely. I think as all working mothers, we are always making choices, right? There are times where I have missed my daughter's annual performance because it was very, very important to be at work for a meeting. I had to travel overseas. While there has also been a time where I've had to, reschedule some of my client meetings to be there for my daughter when she was sick or whatever. So these are choices that you make every time, right? And I don't feel guilty. I personally don't feel guilty about those choices. And they were easy to make and I would never feel guilty about them, and I think it is important to have the ecosystem on both sides, right? Of course, like Ruchika said, you need a village to raise a kid, like they say colloquially. So I am very lucky to have a very supportive husband, mother-in-law, mother, everybody around, help to be able to help with my child. But also equally, you need a supportive organization to allow you to take that flexibility, to be able to, look after your child when your child needs it, right? And without judging you. So both sides are really, really important. And that too, I have to say, I have been very, very fortunate to work in organizations through my career where I've had that support from my bosses to be able to also look at home. So I give them a lot of credit for my success. But having said that, Radha, I want to just share an experience. When we were having the pre-panel chat and I was telling you about how work from home has changed that, right? Blurred lines. And it's not easy today for me to make that choice because I'm sitting in the same environment. And, I was narrating you the story about how my daughter kept interrupting me during the budget presentation I had with my management. And, she overheard our conversation. And what she did was, she went to the kitchen and she quickly went and made, that 8-year-old, whatever she could, make those little treats and got them in front of me. And I didn't realize she was overhearing my conversation. So I asked her, Valeska, what happened? What are you doing? And she said, Mommy, I'm really sorry for disturbing you in your important meetings. And I can't tell you, I just broke down. That's what actually broke me down, because I said, what is this child apologizing for? For wanting her mother's attention, which should be, while she's at home, which should be any child's right?
Yeah.
So these are things I'm personally still struggling with. It was easier in the earlier setup in office to make that choice guilt-free. But today, I'll tell you, it's really hard when it's left only to me.
Absolutely. And, that's pandemic has changed our lives quite a bit. And, that's my last question to, in fact, all of you. And, Sapna, just wanted to understand the last 1 year, what are some of the things that are typically what you feel has changed, and also some important takeaways that you have had?
Oh, that's yeah. Thanks, Radha. I think the first thing, when I talk about this, I think my children say that, it's the first time in their 18 years that they've had both the parents together, for an extended period. So I don't know if they mean it in a good light or a bad light. I didn't even ask. I didn't go further than that question. But I think, it's really, it's been very different. Both, as Rubeena very rightly said, the blending of work and mom and doing your job, and it's like it's all got mixed up. And kids are also going through the same challenge of having their school being done at home, and they're not coming back from school. And so typically you have situations like, I can't find my book. In the middle of a meeting you have a discussion, and then where's my English book? You wouldn't do that if you were in school, right? So get it ready, get it. So situations like that have kind of emerged, which I guess so both of them are vying for attention. Your role is vying for attention. The children are getting in which into situations where they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. It's got the plus and the minus. I mean, having time to spend with them is definitely great. It's good, but the minuses are also challenging. So again, you have, it's about really figuring out your space, your time, and a lot of adjustment from both the families, your work family and your home family. So, I think my daughter knows the projects that I'm currently working on. It's impossible for them not to know. So they know all the colleagues that you are working with. So they know the names, they know whatever they know. So it's a lot more that they know about your work now that they ever did before. I mean, you could have kept that really separate. They many times, children wouldn't even know what you're doing, right? So now that's kind of, especially I think more with women than the men. I mean, the father continues to work, but the mother is keeping on getting the pull more often than the parent, the other parent somehow. So I think it's got a different experience, both good and bad, rather. And I think it's about inclusivity, and it's about going with the flow, and not putting too much pressure either ways. And again, I think at this position, in a leadership position, I think what you do and the vulnerability you show gives your team the courage to show that vulnerability, right? So if I as a leader, and Rubeena, she meant like people, we are not okay with it, how can we expect the other women to feel comfortable with such situations? I think, if at that level you're able to show that your own vulnerability, look, my daughter might walk in anytime, it's fine, right? And I think then organizations, it filters down the chain. So we are pretty used to now having, different children, different the teammates' children coming into the frame, in an important discussion. We were having a pitch yesterday, and I saw a similar situation on the other side. So I think it's something that it's pretty accepted, and it should be accepted, in my view.
Absolutely. And Uma, you come from a sector which is in the times of pandemic is sort of considered a bit non-essential, right? So the challenges there are varied. So what has changed for you during the pandemic?
Yeah. So I think the challenge was being in HR also. The challenge was that a large part of the organization was working, right? So the factories were working, all the people were working. So I think it makes you more empathetic to understand what's happening around you, because there are people who are going there, the parts of the factory which are essential services, and then there are others because business has to go on. So how do you make a workplace safe for people to be there? Many aspects that we may not have paid so much of attention earlier had to be brought in place. Quickly having the canteens to have partitions for people to eat, the industrial canteen where workers actually eat and other people eat. Now, how do you create a safe environment at every point, right from the entry at the gate till the point you get out of the factory premises? So I think empathy is something that definitely increased much more. Number two, I believe, it's a life of gratitude now, much more than it has ever been before. Every single day is a day of gratitude. And I also try to instill that into my team to say that, let us appreciate what we have today and every day and get through this very tough time. Gratitude is something we often forget when things are going right.
Yeah.
I think this has been a big change in me personally. And I'm also trying to see how to spread that more into people, because you are very worried you're not getting a proper increment or promotions and all. It's been a very tough year, right, for most of us. So how do you sort of get out of that and still keep people's focus towards what they're supposed to be doing? So it's brought in some different skills in me to be able to expand my horizon and look at people. Number three is, I think, the things that never happened in this sector have happened now. Whoever imagined manufacturing could ever go on a work from home? I remember the time till a few years back when we struggled to get a Saturday off. And from there, you've moved like 180 degrees to say now, you're going to work from home. And today, people are far more relaxed when it comes to having people work from home. I don't think they're getting so hassled about it. Of course, the day doesn't end, as many of you have said, it's become longer. But I think we have to see the silver lining in every situation. Things are a little better. Women who would have otherwise forced themselves to leave with the VRS and other things did not choose to leave, and they continue because they have to. They have this opportunity to work from home. This is very good. The fourth thing, as an organization, I think what I've realized is we need to change the way we are working. So we are now looking at part-time employment opportunities, gig opportunities, etc., and change the model of employment to suit the current context. We still have a long way to go in terms of leveraging the situation and not curling back to what we were doing earlier, because this pandemic should not make us curl back to what we were doing once things become okay. This should be very classic lessons for us to go into the future and think about the future of work in an organization. And that's what we are trying to drive at. And over a period in time, now with the second wave coming, whatever little rigidity may have been in some people's mind, I think is gone now, because it's about survival now. Yeah, but the first thing today is survival. All our sales folks and service people who go onto the field to take care of the vehicles and sell them today have been told not to risk their life and go out. When did we ever do that in the past? Everybody was out in the field. Today, nobody is going, and we are okay with that because we know it's a temporary phase, hopefully. And yes, it could be perhaps it's going to hit us in some ways, but lives become more important than anything else today. And that's the side of the organization which I feel I have also been instrumental in showing to the rest of the organization. A lot of policies came out. Unfortunately, we had a few deaths of youngsters because of this situation. So we changed our policy in terms of the way we look after the family of post the demise of this. So a lot of things have changed. So as a person, also in the function of HR, it has been more impacting. But as a woman, I feel I have become more empathetic. I have become even more understanding than before, and even more willing to let go and be grateful for than I have ever been in the past.
Yeah, true. Empathy, gratitude, flexibility, accepting things as it comes. These are all some key lessons that I guess all of us have learned over the last, 1 year or so. So, Ruchika, I just wanted to get across to you to understand what are some of your, impacts that you have had during the last 1 year and some of the key lessons you have had.
I think all the ladies here have actually captured all the lessons we are kind of going through and learning. So dealing with the unexpected, I would say, is the biggest lesson I would say from the COVID situation. Nobody really expected that we'd be working from home and working the hours that we do, and kind of managing life, both work as well as personally doing things that probably, all of us were not really doing earlier, because we were kind of concentrating on work and not really managing household matters the way all of us do now. So I would say that's the first change, I would say, in terms of coping up with a lot more in terms of work. And then also having that confidence in knowing that, yeah, we can manage all of this. The second thing is, I think, to the point that Uma made about, being empathetic and humane, understanding everybody else's situation and, making them understand yours, and also kind of, being the support for each other. So, I'm kind of supporting my teams as they go through, and, few of them have been impacted with COVID. Their families have been impacted with COVID. What more can you do? How can you support them emotionally? And of course, as an organization, we are doing our best to support the employees. And I think not only for women, I would say, Radha, but even for men, this has been a time when it's a time of paradigm change, right? I mean, a lot of men are now doing jobs that they were not doing earlier, right? I mean, whether it's washing dishes or cleaning houses, things which nobody kind of did earlier, I would say, when we were also busy chasing, our 9-to-5 kind of jobs, right? So I would say, yes, it's been a period of immense introspection also, because now you value your life, you value the life of other people. And the fact is that, it's most important to be safe at this time, and really, kind of go through this period knowing at the end that there should be a silver lining at the end of it, and that, things will be better. And we all have to, kind of tide over this time, even if it's a rough patch, but, have the confidence that we can tide over this and, get through to the end in a better way and as better human beings. That is my learning from this, period of COVID, I would say.
That's a lot of positivity.
Radha, may I add one point, please, here?
Yeah, sure.
Just one point. Yeah, one other thing, realization is in this time, sadly so, we understood what challenges some women are having at home. And there have been some issues of, domestic violence and things like that, which has come up, which was very disturbing when we came to know about it. But that is another facet which I wanted to bring out to say that women put up with a lot, even as they come to work, some of them at least. And we need to be also aware and mindful of things like that. A person can be effective only if they bring their whole being to work. And here are some situations with women where it is not necessarily as naturally as that. And that was also a very big realization that came into me, I would say, at the end of it, saying that there are other issues women have. I just thought I will bring that up.
No, that's a very important point, Uma. In fact, we have also been reading a lot about it.
Right.
It's rather unfortunate, and it's tough. But I would prefer to close this panel on a positive note, like what Ruchika was talking about. We should have our confidence. We should navigate these tough times, both professionally, individually, for our larger families as well. Let's hope that 2021, latter part of 2021 and 2022 turns out to be much better than what 2020 was and what 2021 so far has been. So on that note, thanks a lot. It has been a great discussion, and once again, it's fantastic to meet you all women, though online, but I do hope that at some point in time we get to meet face to face. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Awesome job,
Thank you.
Radha. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Really nice meeting everyone.
And happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's
Happy Mom's Day. Supermoms, as Rubeena said.
Yes.